It's the same story, just a different day. The New York Jets has basically become the movie Groundhog Day. And for those of you who didn't watch the game and you probably had a better Sunday than the people that slept through that one, the guys that basically, and I feel horrible for any Jet fan that went all the way to MetLife today to see that performance. This was another embarrassment for this team. And I have some strong thoughts about this front office and this coaching staff at this point, but this Jets season has come off the rails. Enough with the hope that Aaron Rodgers is coming back. Aaron Rodgers is not helping this team getting to the postseason. They're 4-8. At this point, I do want to see Rodgers if he's healthy play because I got to see what he has left in the tank and can he actually make this Nathaniel Hackett offense work because it doesn't look like it's working at all. It is Groundhog Day for the New York Jets. Let me see if you guys have heard this script before. The New York Jets defense plays great. The New York Jets defense plays unbelievably. They even score points. But the New York Jets offense can't find the end zone. The New York Jets make a quarterback change. It doesn't do anything. The New York Jets offense is boring. The New York Jets offense is predictable. And the New York Jets, once again, lose to another team. And just to add insult to injury, last year when we saw this team collapse from 7-4, they still had a shot deep into December. We're in the beginning of December, and the season is already over. This is absolutely infuriating as a Jet fan who, again, the Jets had an extra couple days because of the Black Friday game. You get a couple offensive linemen back. The Jets have a lead in this game with the safety, but I am sick and tired of seeing this over and over and over again. I need to see something from this coaching staff. I need to see anything from this coaching staff, or else people deserve to lose their jobs. The Jets have scored 10 touchdowns this entire season. The Jets have scored only in 2 of the last 5 games a touchdown. That's it. The defense, let me remind people, the defense has been in the end zone more than the Jets offense. The defense was the only Jet members that were in scoring in the end zone today with their safety. This New York Jet team held an offense to 13 points, yet this team cannot figure it out. And I'll give Nathaniel Hackett, you want me to give Nathaniel Hackett some credit? Nathaniel Hackett did something that I thought was pretty impossible at this point. He is making Jet fans want Zach Wilson back out there. That is how bad this offense is. That is how broken this offense is. And the problem I have and every single Jet fan have is this team should not automatically come back. I know that Aaron Rodgers is comfortable with Robert Saleh. I understand that Aaron Rodgers really likes Joe Douglas. But the thing is, when this team made a decision when they were 3-3 not to go for it, not to add a wide receiver, not to try to address the offensive line, not to bring in a competent veteran backup behind Zach Wilson and basically flush this season down the toilet, another season where the Jets are going to miss the playoffs, another season where the Jets are not only getting embarrassed, but now getting ridiculed again. It is so infuriating. And I said this last week after the Black Friday game, and I do think it is important. There are times when Jet coaches hit that infinite game or games where it turns from frustration to basically embarrassment. The New York Jets last week were embarrassed on national TV. And again, you see the Falcons at their interceptions doing the funny celebrations and just embarrassing the New York Jets. This is absolutely infuriating, and it is not even football to watch. We as Jet fans have to be some of the most loyal fans because what fan base would stick up and watch 3 hours of that offense? What part of that offense looks competent? It seems like any other team can figure out something, can figure out anything to do with a quarterback except the New York Jets. And this is my other thing I have to say about this organization. It is a damning look on this front office where they shoved down our throats for weeks. Zach's going to be fine, but we'll be fine if we have a backup. We have Tim Boyle and Trevor Siemian. How'd that look today, guys? It looked horrendous. So the New York Jets, when we look at evaluating talent, they didn't look at this quarterback room and go, at the deadline, and I understand Dobbs played horribly last week, maybe we should try to trade for Dobbs. Maybe we should try to see if Carson Wentz is available. Maybe we should try to see if we could somehow get Jameis Winston out of New Orleans. Maybe try to trade for Jacoby Brissett. But no. And this is one of the things, too. Frank fired. We'll get to Douglas. We'll get to Saleh. No gas, all breaks. I think Melvin has the perfect. That is basically the Jets season in a nutshell. No gas, all breaks. And look, it is absolutely infuriating, and I can see where this frustration is coming from because the Jets are wasting a Super Bowl defense. The Jets are wasting Garrett Wilson. The Jets are wasting Breece Hall. And I saw something today where people are going to jump on Breece. We had 13 carries for 16 yards. It's because they're putting 10 guys in the box. They don't respect this offense. They don't respect this team. Every defensive coordinator is basically flipping Nathaniel Hackett and this quarterback room the bird, saying, you know what? You're not going to be able to run the damn football because we're going to stack the box. We're going to put one-on-one on the outside. We're not going to put safety coverage over the top. You know what? Because we don't believe you can do anything. And look, the Jets can't do anything. Boyle with the bad interception today. They can't get Garrett Wilson involved. Even Xavier Gibson, who's showing flashes out there, they can't get these guys the ball. This offensive line, I get it's not good, but you have to scheme around your deficiencies, and this team cannot do it. And it's, again, 5 losses in a row. This team was 3-3. They beat the Eagles, for God's sake. They were in this, and this front office has neglected it this season. They have basically told off this team and told off this fan base, basically, if we go for it, fine. Do the Jets front office care? Do they care about us? Do they care? Like, seriously, RJF Media, what the F did we just watch? It's the same thing every week. It's the same thing every week. And look, the one person who's probably smiling today is Zach Wilson, because I don't think Zach Wilson's good. But you look around, Joe Douglas does not look good today. Nathaniel Hackett does not look good today. Robert Saleh does not look good today. It does not look good. Robert Saleh asked why the Jets take when they have it. Said fans will have understanding of why when they watch the all 22. Yeah. Guess what, Robert? It doesn't matter. It's because your quarterbacks are garbage. It's terrible. You're offensive coordinator. I understand that you don't have a good quarterback, but guess what? Good coaches and good coordinators, they figure it out. They figure it out. It's the NFL. No one cares about your problems. No one cares if you have an injured quarterback. You figure it out, and you just don't tell the fans, well, watch the all-22. Yeah, watch the all-22. We've been watching. Your team can't score touchdowns. Your team, your defense has been in the end zone more than your freaking offense in the last 5 weeks. Don't tell us as a fan base, oh, we're close. Watch the all-22. Yeah, guys are open. Well, guess what? You don't have the guy to get on the football. And if you want to blame Joe Douglas, if that's a shot at Joe Douglas, fine. But you know what you should have done, Robert? Hey, let me go up to Joe Douglas and Woody Johnson and say, hey, I've seen these guys at practice. They're terrible. We need to get someone out there. Instead, for weeks, it was the same Groundhog Day speech. Oh, Zach is getting better. Zach is close. Zach's almost got it figured out. And, oh, yeah, Zach's terrible. So this is terrible. Robert Saleh asked about weren't able to get Garrett Wilson the ball in the first half, pulled back, basically saying, I'll have a better answer for you tomorrow. He's out of answers. So let me get this straight, too. So I'm watching football right now. Joe Flacco just threw a touchdown for the Cleveland Browns. I know Flacco wasn't great, but hey, why didn't we bring him in? I mean, seriously. Seriously, like at this point, this is, and Melvin brings up a great point, it won't snowball. Robert Saleh, you put that out there. You told this fan base, you told all of us, this will not snowball. It's not a snowball anymore. It's a snow boulder, basically burying this fan base alive. Where you went from a 3-3 team at your bye to now losing 5 in a row, being embarrassed on national TV last week, and now all of a sudden you are out of this picture. You are out of the playoffs again for a 13th season. And this has to be something we have to discuss with Robert Saleh, because if any other situation, you look at a coach's record, they're gone. And there's a lot of things I like about Robert Saleh. If you watch this channel, you know I support Robert Saleh and Joe Douglas a lot. But there comes a time where you look at trends in coaches, and one of the most damning ones for Robert Saleh is 2 years in a row, his team has collapsed in the back half of the season. Seriously, in a perfect world, if the Jets somehow get Rodgers back, if the Jets are 5-1 next year, you cannot still tell a Jet fan that if Robert Saleh is this head coach, that they're going to have confidence in him, because they've now gone through 2 seasons where the Jets had opportunity right there, and they didn't do it. The New York Jets, too, had Mike White. They had the opportunity to bring him back. They said no. And imagine this locker room right now. Like, how do you look at those defensive players with a straight face? How? Like, how do you go in there and show, like, what do you tell this defense? Again. And stop this whole thing with, trying to get Devontae Adams in the offseason. I don't care. This team needs offensive line. This team needs so much help. And, oh my God, you got to be freaking kidding. Dalvin Cook, the last 2 or 3 weeks, the team has had great weeks of practice. Well, guess what? It's not translating to games. Your team scored 8 freaking points today at home. 8 points. Your defense is great. Your defense, and I know Robert Saleh, the defense won't break. Well, guess what? This team, if you had any quarterback play, anything, and we know why they're sticking with Hackett, because Rodgers wants him. And I also think one of the reasons Rodgers is pushing back isn't because of the Jets. It's because he knows every single Jet fan and every single station covering the Jets is basically crucifying this organization for allowing Nathaniel Hackett to continue to be here, for allowing this to continue, to happen. And you look around this league. Matt Canada's been fired. The Bills have fired their OC. Every other offense that's been bad this year has fired their OC, except the Jets. And we know why. And you know what? I'm at the point now, and I think a lot of Jets fans are too. If this pisses off Aaron Rodgers, who cares? You have to do the right thing as an organization. And you know what? If Aaron Rodgers gives you grief, you have this. Hey, Aaron, we did this offseason. We gave you Randall Cobb, who has 3 catches. We gave you Allen Lazard, who leads the league in drops. We gave you the offensive coordinator, who has the worst offense basically in NFL. It might be the worst offense in NFL history at this rate. Like, everything we've given you, Aaron, has not only been bad, it has been horrendous. If you think you're going to dictate everything, look, we'll acquiesce to you. We'll keep you in the conversation. We'll try to get you the players you want. But at the same time, Every move we've made to appease you, to make you happy, has been horrendous. And I understand the Jets are going to say, well, this season went down the tubes with Aaron Rodgers. You know what? This team had an opportunity to compete. This is the National Football League. You compete every week. No one cares if you lose your quarterback. How many teams this year have lost their starting quarterback? Not to the extent of the Jets, but they've had to play rookie quarterbacks. They've had to play backup quarterbacks. The Giants have had to play an undrafted rookie at a quarterback, and he's won them 2 freaking games. Like, there is no excuses for this organization anymore. And if this continues to happen, Woody Johnson has to do something, because this is getting to the point where it's embarrassing. It is embarrassing. Like, as Jet fans, it pains you to go outside. It pains you to wear that jersey. It pains you to wear that shirt and say you're a Jet fan. Because I know what every Jet fan has had to deal with. If someone sees you wearing a Jets apparel, they know you're a Jet fan. Someone's come up to you in the last week and a half and said, hey, only the Jets could allow that Hail Mary at the end of that halftime game at the Black Friday game. Hey, the Jets, like, what happened? Oh, the Super Bowl expectations, and, you know, you're back to 4-8. Like, what's the silver lining? Well, I guess in Tankathon, the Jets have jumped the Giants for the 7th pick. I mean, Robert Sala, of course, non-committal about the quarterback, as he should be. I mean, at this point, I'm going through my head, like, who's even still available? Like, who's still available, like, for a quarterback? Like, I'm serious. Like, I would have taken Joe Flacco at this point. You can tell me in the comments. You can tell me after this. If you're new to the channel, give us a subscribe, give us a like. Basically here for venting for Jet fans. But you cannot tell me that, again, I understand Joe Flacco is a statue, but it's got to be there better than this. It's like, what, like, as Jet fans, like, what did we do to deserve this? You know, we go from basically having a chance to compete for a Super Bowl to now we're at the point where we're not even at Christmas and we're already talking about the draft and a future quarterback. And there's a lot to get into the draft, and I'll get into it really quickly here. And again, you guys know I do a lot of draft coverage, so make sure you follow, and I'll do the mock drafts when we get there. If Rodgers is staying, I think the biggest thing is they're going to draft the O-line in the first round and then try to get a developmental quarterback later. If you had to ask me about the quarterbacks in this draft, I think it's a little overblown. I think Caleb Williams is incredibly talented. I don't think it would work well with this person out of New York. I like Drake May, but it gets banged up. If I had to pick one in the first round, it'd probably be Michael Penix, but then you have the left-hander, bit older. I mean, there's no prospect. There's no Trevor Lawrence in this draft. There's no guy you're like, okay, that's the one guy for that. So let's see, getting some questions now. At some point, the organization needs to tell Rodgers, thanks for wanting to be here and everything, but you brought, it doesn't work. And the Jets need changes. It's not working. What's the section plan to Rodgers? There's none right now. Douglas needs to attach himself in this organization for all that mill mentality. He will set us back years. John, like, I agree. Like, I do think that the succession plan, I mean, I love Tony Alexia with the conspiracy theory. I mean, gotta love that. Do they go first? It depends. I mean, right now, according to Tankathon, the Jets would have the 7th pick in the draft. Obviously, the Giants are 6. There's a bunch of 4-8 teams. Washington had the loss today. They still have to take their bye. They're 4-9. I mean, you're not getting into the top 3. I think Arizona, New England, and Chicago have pretty much wrapped that up pretty nicely. But there's a chance that the Jets get within the top 4. I mean, the Jets have to play Washington later this year. The Jets, like, that's the other thing about this game, which is frustrating, that the Falcons are not a good team. They're not a good team. And, like, this was one of those games where you're like, if the Jets are somehow going to make a run or the Jets are somehow going to keep this hope alive, the Falcons are one of the teams they're going to beat. I just don't know. I can. I'm ready to go. The wing's ready to go, Melvin. The wing's ready to rock and roll. Thanks, John. Appreciate that. You know, always hit that like button. Give us a subscribe. As always, Bo Nick Slate. First round, the problem is the Jets could maneuver back in the draft. They have the 3rd round pick. I actually have, okay, so John's asked me draft questions. If we were in the top 5, you have to get Drake May. I don't think Drake, if you're in the top 5, I think Drake May's going 1 or 2. You got to be in the top 2, basically. That's where they're really going, John. One kid I am higher on in the draft, and I'll talk about this more when we do the mock draft, is I think that if the Jets go quarterback, it's going to be a 3rd or 4th round developmental guy. I think they're going to take one of the really great tackles in the 1st round. And the other question, too, is do you trust Joe Douglas and the regime to pick a quarterback? That's the other big thing. One guy that I am really high on in this draft, especially on day 3 to develop, is Tua Tagovailoa, the brother of Tua. I really like a lot of his skill sets, especially how it translates to this offense. You've seen how his brothers really thrived in the Dolphins offense. That's the system that they want to run the Jets, this West Coast system. Very accurate passer, set the Big Ten passing record this season. A little bit older. I don't think he's ready to play, but the one thing I do like about him, if you're going to draft someone at that point, he's gotten a lot of snaps in college and a lot of experience. And don't forget, too, this is someone that was brought into Alabama, highly valued recruit, went to Maryland, played very well in Maryland. I like him as a day 3 pick. I think he could be someone that if you had to bring him in as a rookie, wouldn't be completely overwhelmed. I understand not the most athletic kid in the world, not the biggest arm, but you've seen how Tua works in this kind of system. If they're going to keep this West Coast system, I think he'd be someone that I would really look at as well. Quinn Ewers, again, it comes back to Texas. This is a hard thing to talk about the draft because you don't know who's going to declare. I like Ewers too. The question is how you're going to maneuver on the draft board because the Jets are going to have a high pick. And like, if you want to get like one of those guys, here's the thing. Do you trade that top 5 pick to move back a couple spots, gain an extra draft pick, and go that route? Because that's basically what you're going to have to do if you want to negotiate getting like a Quinn Ewers later. Spencer Rattler, I don't hate as a later round guy. Again, when they're available. If I'm the Jets, I'm trying to target someone early day 3. And because don't forget, the Jets don't have a 2nd round pick. I'm trying to get an offensive line in the 1st round, then see if there's a playmaker that slides through to round 3 to help as well. I really like Daniels from LSU too. But I think Daniels is going to be a late 1st round, early 2nd round pick. I think him and Penix are going to work their way in the 1st round, especially with the athleticism. The reason I'm saying to his brother is because I think he can be there on day 3. I don't see Penix, Nix, or Daniels being even close to day 3. I think they're going to go day 2. Jets only have one day 2 pick. Could they maybe maneuver up to get someone? But then don't forget they're going to have a 3rd round pick. So to go up into the 2nd, you're going to have to trade a lot of capital. Will Douglas get fired? I mean, it's on the I think everything's got to be on the table, Jet fans, to be honest with you. I mean, look, this is getting to the point where it's embarrassing. It's embarrassing as a Jet fan, and you cannot tell me Woody Johnson isn't embarrassed. The one thing that, and I've said this for weeks on this channel, and this is the feeling I've gotten, is that basically Saleh and Joe Douglas were told by Woody early in the season that this season was a wash and that basically they were all coming back. Because to me, if there was any pressure from the ownership to make the playoffs this year, and this team did nothing, I think that's even more damning on this coaching staff, but just makes more sense because, look, they were close, but they didn't go out and get a backup. They didn't go out and get a receiver. They didn't go out and invest at the trade deadline. Like, they had opportunities. And my big thing is, if you're a GM and you're a coach and you feel there's a chance you're going to get fired, you're going to be aggressive because you know your job's on the line. And it just seems like the way they operated were 2 guys in their positions who didn't feel like they were going to get fired. You felt like they were in a position where they were not going to make a huge change. They basically were like, you know what? We don't want to rock the boat. We know we have our job back, but man, like, and another person asked Zach Wilson, will he be considered for the Texans start? Always in consideration, but what level? I'm not sure yet. Well, at this point, like, I mean, that's the one thing, like, and that's the thing with this is like, how bad has this offense been that we're clamoring for Zach Wilson back? A lot of Jet fans, like, seriously, Yeah, like, at this point, like, I agree with 12 years. Like, give it a shot. Like, it's just embarrassing. I'm over this entire regime. Sad they're coming back. I do. They're coming back, but man, like, it's hard, like, to sell this to this fan base. Like, and I agree with Melvin. Some heads got to roll. Like, I think it's got to be Hackett. Like, someone has to be the sacrificial lamb. Like, someone has to. Mothman talking about the draft. Who knows? We shot down like a little jet, feeling good to collapsing. Enough of the Mulligan BS. The staff has been proven garbage on Rodgers. Why would you keep them? I mean, look, it's clear that Rodgers has a lot of control in this organization. He wants to be happy. And look, I think it'd be clear if this staff comes back next year by some miracle, it's a short leash. Like, if it goes bad early in the season, they're all getting fired. And I know, like, Jet fans, like, we don't want to hear that. You can. I agree with that, Tony. You started, I'll sign it. So you send me the link, you put that in the chat, and we'll get to it. Yeah, Melvin's right. Like, that's the terrifying thing. And like, we laugh with this coaching staff, but then it also comes back to, if the coaching staff and the front office knew that Zach was the best option and that the backups were horrendous, why didn't they go out and get a better backup? Like, even Joe Flacco. Like, I understand that Jet fans don't like Flacco, but I'd ask you this. Would you feel better about Flacco starting over Zach Wilson? Probably. They have to move down to acquire picks. I hope Jim Harbaugh's. I don't think Harbaugh's coming. I really don't. We'll have to see. You're not Reality King dropping some reality notes. It's something. From a Falcons fan, thanks so much. Thanks, Damon. All right. John, clean house. I mean, look, I get that. Because Bowers is the best tight end talent in this draft. And look, any other year, I'd say go for the best talent. I mean, the only way I don't see the Jets drafting O-line is if they somehow make a big trade and somehow don't give up a ton of draft capital or sign a tackle in free agency. But I just see them drafting a tackle. But again, the draft experts, they're going by like, okay, the Jets offense is terrible. This is the best playmaker in the draft. Let's add him there. But look, you need to. The Jets are going to draft one or two things in the first round. They're either going to draft, an offensive tackle, or they're going to draft basically a quarterback. The only exception is if they know Rodgers is not going to want a quarterback, and like Marvin Harrison Jr. somehow falls to them. Maybe that's the exception. But outside of that, I mean, Hackett runs a dead offense that he kills play after play. Yeah, it's bad. If you pick top 5, you have to go QB and you have to clean house. But the other problem, though, Snoopy, is, yeah, and I agree that they're wasting the prime of these guys. Look, the problem, the Jets have basically screwed themselves because, I know, shocker. The problem is the clean house argument is also tough, too, because what great head coach is going to want to come in with the expectations of this team, with Aaron Rodgers coming off an Achilles and no great long-term quarterback play? Like, it's not an attractive coaching job. Like, the Jets in some ways would be more attractive in a weird way is if they run it back next year, it blows up and they fire everyone and Rodgers goes away, because then you're starting with a clean slate. I don't think a coach wants to inherit Aaron Rodgers. I don't think they want to do that and basically take over. Like, that's the other reason. Like, there's no great solution to the Jets' problem right now. If you fire everyone, then it's going to be not a desirable job to take as a GM or a coach. And, if you're the coach of the GM, or you're going to have to listen to Rodgers, or are you going to be allowed to have power in the building? Probably not. Like, does that impact the decision? And then the other problem that you run into too as well is if you keep this coaching staff and it blows up horribly, then you're going to be in another terrible situation next year. You're going to be another year moving forward with these guys on great rookie contracts, and you're going to have to start paying guys after next year. Like, it's just like I was thinking about this the other day too, man. Like, if you were to ask me to think of, if you were to ask me, like, what would be the worst case scenario for this season, I don't think as Jet fans we could have even imagined this. Like, I was thinking about this the other day. Like, if someone came up to you before the season and said, what would be the worst case scenario for the Jets? I would have said Rodgers gets hurt, misses an extended period of time, not the whole season. They have to go to Zach. They patch it together. They compete, but it's not enough. They go into like week 15 or something competing, and they win like 7 or 8 games. But like that was like worst case scenario. I mean, are the Jets even going to get 6 wins? Like seriously, are the Jets going to get 6 wins? It sure doesn't feel like it. Like, it sure doesn't look like, it sure doesn't feel like that they're even close to 6 wins. Like, today felt like one of those last opportunities for this Jet team to win a game, because the Jets play on the road a lot coming down the pike. And you look at the games that they have. Home against the Texans. Texans are a better team. At the Dolphins. Dolphins are rolling. Home against the Commanders, the New Year's Eve, Christmas Eve game that Aaron Rodgers supposedly come back. I mean, maybe the Commanders. Browns with Joe Flacco. Maybe, but their defense is really good. And then the Patriots. Like, the Patriots, Commanders are probably the 2 games you look at, like, but with this offense, I mean, this offense hasn't scored a touchdown in 3 of the last 5 games. Like, I can try as a Jet fan to rationalize in my head the reasons why the Jets can win those games, but they can't even find the end zone. Michael Carter with Arizona. Yeah, Michael. That's the other thing too. Like, they cut Michael Carter because they were supposed to unleash Izzy, and they haven't used it. Like, here's an idea, guys. With the Jets lacking receivers, line Breece Hall up in the slot. I'll give LaFleur credit. When LaFleur was here, at least when things were going well, they'd be creative. I mean, can we run a jet sweep with Breece Hall? Can we have Breece Hall and Dalvin Cook or Izzy on the field at the same time? Can we motion one of them into the backfield and confuse defenses of who's getting the football? No, we just got to run a halfback dive. No, we're just going to run a power. Oh, no, we're just going to run straight in the offensive line. Like, there's no creativity. There is no adjustments. Like, again, they had some flea flickers. You see some growth, but it was like the tiniest baby steps today. We lose 100% lose out. Snoopy with the confidence right now. Don't count the Giants in terms of, are you talking for the pick, John? I'm not sure what you're going to. Yeah, watch the Patriots kill us. Hey, you know what? In that case, I hate to say this, but the way this season's going, I'd rather the Patriots beat us and continue that streak. Look, I'd rather have the Patriots beat us and screw themselves out of a better draft pick and help our draft stock at this point. So, and I get where John's coming from. I think a lot of people are just sick and tired of like the waiting and with Rodgers. And look, we don't know how good Rodgers is going to be coming off this Achilles. Last year was kind of like, okay, like maybe starting to decline a little bit, but now you're talking about a 4-year off of Achilles. I mean, I think the worst fear is we get into next season and then all of a sudden Aaron Rodgers looks completely shot. And it's like, we waited over 1.5 years for this. Like we basically punished ourselves for this. Like that's the reason I think you also have to look at a quarterback in this draft. Like, you need to have a contingency plan for this team because they don't have one. Oh, this came back. Was Bull. He knew this. Yeah, James, I'm curious what he's going to say at McAfee. Like, if anything, James, I think the biggest reason he says, I think he was trying to give hope in this locker room because it's clear that this team really wants him out there. But look, I'm in the minority too. At this point, I want to see Rodgers play. And look, you guys can disagree with me on anything at this point. I need to see him play. Because if they're really going to run it back and refuse to see Nathaniel Hackett, I need to see Rodgers work in this offense. Okay, we can't fire Nathaniel Hackett because he only will work with Aaron. Well, let's see it. Even if it's 3 games. If the Jets go and win 3 games, the offense looks better and fixed, I'll feel a lot better going into next season. I'll be like, okay, it does work for Aaron Rodgers. But if it comes out, Aaron doesn't look healthy, Aaron looks slow, Aaron doesn't look mobile, this offense is still a disaster with Aaron, then you also have the evidence if you want to push back against Aaron. Hey, Aaron, we kept your guy. It still was terrible. Hey, Aaron, we need to draft the quarterback because you got injured and you didn't look 100%. And I appreciate Rodgers pushing himself. I appreciate him trying to get back on the field. But, man, we're at the point now, too. Yeah, like, and I agree with Melvin. If he's healthy, he needs to play. It's not just owing to the fans. Like, the fans need to see this. Like, as a fan, I need to see this happen. I need to see him play because I need to see if this can work. Because at this point, I'm not convinced that this offense is ever going to work with Nathaniel Hackett. Like, I need to, as a fan, be assured, like, okay, this does work. Okay, I can see it. Okay, this makes sense with Rodgers. Because right now, we all talk about the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. And right now, the Jets we get the same, it's the same freaking story every single week. This offense is horrendous. This defense is great. Dumb penalties. This coaching staff. Like, I'm sorry. I'm just looking around. Jesus, Jets are giving me health issues now, apparently, too. It's just, I am sick and tired of all the, it's going to click. It's going to click. We're close. It's going to click. It hasn't. The season's over. This is the NFL. You have to click quickly. This isn't baseball where you can muddle for 30 games trying to figure something out. This is the National Football League. In a span of a month, the Jets went from possibly a playoff contender, possibly even, like, this is how bad it's been, possibly in contention for the freaking division. And instead, in a month, we're here saying, well, maybe they'll be top 5. Maybe they'll be able to draft a quarterback early. Like, that is where we are right now. That is where we have fallen in the last month. It's the NFL. Like, you don't have time to wait. Oh, God, Melvin, don't tease me with this. Like, I was pounding the table for Minshew. Like, I was screaming, get Minshew last year. I was screaming, get Minshew this year. Like, man, I like Minshew a lot. Like, hey, you know, at this point, I'd even say that, like, if Rodgers wants to be OC, fine. At this point, like, I mean, what else? Like we wasted 3.5 hours today. Like, seriously, John, Melvin, Tony, RJF Media. It feels like we wasted 3.5 hours today because, like, seriously, if I was to tell you 3.5 hours later, like, okay, you're not going to miss anything. This is the Jet game. Offense is going to like, we knew that was going to happen. Every week we try to convince ourselves that a quarterback change is going to fix this. This team is broken offensively. Like, I have not seen an offense struggle this badly. I mean, for God's sakes, you see middle schoolers scoring more at a middle school dance than the Jets offense freaking does. Like, you throw any analogy in there. Minshew, 312, 2 TDs. That's 5 weeks of our production in one. Joe Flacco's thrown a touchdown. I mean, today with the Browns, I mean, that's basically the offensive production in the last 5 weeks too, Melvin. So, Cayuga Lake Jet fan, oh my God, man, I am sorry. I hope you're not sitting in traffic, but man, like, I just want to shout out to every Jet fan that actually went to this game today, like Cayuga, because look, you don't deserve this. We don't deserve this, but especially if you went out to MetLife in the pouring rain, the freezing rain today, to watch that, to watch this offense, to watch this team. Like, you see when this team has hope, like you saw it on the prime thing, is this fan base will show up and support this team. But this fan base, once again, is just slapped in the face. It's embarrassing. And today you feel a little bit better because at least you're not embarrassed in primetime. Like, you're embarrassed for being in primetime. Thank you, Tony. Always appreciate the love and support. I mean, look, Melvin, I think Melvin's right. I can't think of a worse offense. Like 1950s offense, maybe, but I can't. Like you watch this game, Like let's list the better things to do than go to the Jet game today. Like probably have to watch 24 hours of Hallmark movies for Christmas, like, and not be able to get off the couch. Or you know what would be more entertaining than the Jet game today? Being stuck in traffic on the New Jersey Turnpike for 6 hours. That's more entertaining. You're probably going to see more action there than you would at MetLife today. Like, seriously. Look, I love Ben Johnson. I love him. John, I think it's complicated because you have to remember with a lot of these coaches, they are paired together and they're kind of like a fraternity together. I just don't see Ulbrich staying and Saleh going. Plus, Johnson's going to want to hire his own staff. So I don't think that works. But I love Ben Johnson. I think he's going to be the hottest candidate. I went Falcon. We're fans if the Jets, and if they scream angrily, the Jets are trash. We're just like, yeah, it's watching the Jets is complete torture with our dead on. I mean, that's a good point. If we need ideas for torture, just make people watch this Jet offense. Like, just make them watch it that's the thing. Like, football, this isn't even like the Jets are bad. Like, they're unwatchable. Like, it'd be one thing if they were losing close games and at least being functional. Like, their offense can't function. And like I said, you are seeing teams basically thumb their nose at the Jets saying, we know you can't score. We know you can't throw the ball. We're going to put 10 guys in the box. Like, people want to kill Breece Hall for running. Where's he supposed to run to? People want to kill this offensive line. But when they're blitzing the house because they know they can leave guys in single coverage. Like, you were watching Trevor Siemian Boyle today it looked like ducks almost. Like, throwing floaters out there and like missing guys. I mean, look, Charles, like, they got to do something. Like, they got to win a couple games here. Like, you cannot end the season on like a multiple game losing streak. You can't lose. And that's the thing. We have 5 more games to go. Like I was saying last week, it's like a marathon. Like, we have 5 more games to go. 5 more games to go. Without Novocaine too, James. I'd rather do it without the Novocaine too. I mean, let's a fun thing for the chat. What would you rather do than go to the Jet fans? Let's say holiday with the in-laws for an extended period of time without liquid courage. I think that'd be a good one. Having to go, let's see. I always did the New Jersey Turnpike example. There's probably like, being stuck, your flight, being stuck on the plane basically, and being held on a plane because there's no terminal. Like, you just hold on the plane. Like, that would be bad too. Yeah, Tony, bring back the Strevler pass. Yeah, underachiever. Come on, man. Come on. Bring back we will. They could. I mean, is it off the table, Melvin? It's yeah. It's 12 years is the minority. Like, you looked at Twitter today, and it was just like everyone's just like, "Oh my god, like, this offense is terrible." But it's frustrating. Well, guys, it was a frustrating day. We'll have more content as the season grinds down the rest of the way. We'll have a lot of draft content coming your way, of course, as well. Make sure to give us a like, give us a subscribe. But again, it's the Groundhog Day. It's the same Jet story we've seen the last couple of weeks. And look, I give you Jet fans a lot of credit for supporting this team. Support this channel. Give us a like, give us a subscribe. Until next time, I'm your host, Nolan Rich, and this is Rich Sports Talk.